Hello ladies and mental gen, and welcome to another HD review. Today we are looking at the T110E5, the Tier 10 American heavy tank. So finally in 9.17.1 Wargaming decided, you know what? 1 year is enough, blitz, for E5 to be overpowered. Let's make a mouse overpowered now. So they nerfed E5, so it's no longer broken. So I'm gonna give it a fair shot on this review. And let's start as always with the armor. We have a pretty weak lower plate now, 127mm, 150mm, angled not very steeply as you can see. So generally the lower plate is something you don't really want to present to your enemies. Even lower tiers can pen this. The tiers, tier 8s and 9s won't have too much trouble with it. But it's okay because the E5 has gun depression and all sorts of other things. The upper plate, however, is very strong. We got from 400, like this one strip of armor here is like 400, and it goes like 300. Mostly it's over 300, so you don't really want to fuck with the upper plate of an E5. The turret is mostly covered with a gun mantlet, also really thick with some silly values here. There is a weak spot in the turret ring, so if you get penned, that's where it happens generally. Also, there's tiny weak spots in the rangefinders, but I wouldn't really never recommend you shooting them. The rest of the turret, there is a bit of a strip here of armor that isn't too strong, but it's also quite tiny. You can get unlucky and get penned there, but generally, again, I wouldn't recommend you aiming there if you're fighting E5s. The rest of the turret is really solid. There's, 700 armor zones. Like, you don't want to fuck with this. And then we come to the cupola, which used to be 260 and angled, and now it is a bit less than that. It's kind of weird with these angles here. You can't really see. In real life, the cupola looks way different, but in a game, generally, there's not too much angle to it, but you can still get some effective armor of 300 plus, but generally, if you shoot a flat cupola, it's going to be 230 ish armor. Some places it's gonna be higher, but that's generally what we are seeing here. So yeah, the E5 cupola can be definitely penned by tier 10s now and some tier 9s and 8s, but it's a weak spot. That's kind of what it's supposed to be there for. Or, you know, generally cupola can be like 290 armor. It's like not thick enough to have that much protection, really. Anyways, side armor. We get 76mm, but it's not as bad as it might seem because the E5 has ridiculously wide tracks and they're always pretty much in front of the hull. Also, the hull is a bit angled, so there is a pretty good chance that your side scraping will work. Your enemies can shoot the upper plate, but if you don't give them well, if they can't overmatch the angle or they're not shooting heat and that's why they're overmatching, then this is still pretty tricky to pen. So whenever there's an E5 side stripping against you, you should try to aim at the lower plate because it kind of needs to expose that in order to shoot you unless there's some ground covering it. And the rest is obviously paper. The side of the turret is also pretty strong with 200 flat, even 280 zone here, which you can be unlucky and hit at times. But I'm pretty sure that's all there is to say about the armor, so let's get into the replay. Alright, let's go through the stats real quick. I am comparing it to a 113. I don't really know what else to compare this with, but the 113 I guess is the most similar tank to the E5. So we start off with 2,200 hit points, your range of 400, top speed forwards 37, backwards 12, power to weight of 16.28, tank traverse 31, effective traverse slightly lower than that, terrain resistance slightly worse than on the 113 apart from on the soft terrain, gun elevation 15, gun depression 8. When we come to the gun, we get 2,586 DPM, 400 damage a shot, 258 pen, aiming time of 1.92, accuracy of 0.34. The soft stats seem to be really similar to the 113 and they're not too bad. We get a nice shell velocity as well, and that's pretty much all there is to say about it. The gun depression is 8 to the front and 5 to the back if you're interested in that. Alright, so when I was saying there's not many tanks like this, is that this is the only tank that doesn't have like some clunky shit going about it, that has a good and solid accurate gun and good gun depression. The 113 generally has a potato gun, the one FV215B has a back-mounted turret and is awkward as shit to play, and the rest of the heavies either have way bigger guns or are way slower. So there's not a lot of tanks like the E5. And we start off playing on, well, yeah, we're playing on El Haloof, if you didn't know this. A pretty light tier 10 game. We start off by shooting this mod 1 and making his life really short. And the 140 was the only one who was able to pen me. I did only get shot twice there. But we can pre-aim this angle again, and we're gonna pen the upper plate of a 140 without too much issues there. And again, the E5 was in such a broken state before. It was just ridiculous how overpowered they made it. The lower plate buffs, the road wheel buffs, the cupola buffs, like what the fuck were they thinking? It was better than every super heavy armor wise, and it had this gun. And this gun is great. You cannot take much away from it. It's a really good gun. The alpha damage isn't too high, but it aims well and it has gun depression, so you can't really complain about the firepower on the E5. The weakness of this tank definitely is the lowish alpha, and you know, now the weak spots that are kind of all over the place. So as long as you really need to be keeping mobile in this tank, you can't really sit still and expect to bounce. You can't really afford to aim fully, and that's okay because you don't have to, because this gun doesn't really need to aim all that much anyways. That being said, with the new mouse in the game, like, not really much can compete with that. I mean, the Type 5 is also broken as shit, but there's not that many people who have the Type 5, so it's not that big of an issue. The E4 now thinks he can fuck with us, and, you know, to an extent he can, because I don't really want to trade with him, and if he aims that shot well, he might hit me, and if he hits me, he will pen me every time, pretty much, and that's fine, because we do have the gun depression, we do have quite a lot of advantage over him in a lot of other ways, but he's trying to push up, and we're gonna abuse that and pen him once again here. Pretty awkward play by him there, not sure what he was thinking about. But we're pretty much being a cheeky cunt, and that pays off with that Centurion ammo rack. We really never have aimed our shots a lot at all, and that's kind of what you want to do in this tank. You never really want to be aiming too much, because, yeah, well, that was awkward. Bounce off the back of an E4 turret, that is new. Anyways, well, with a tank like this, you generally are a cheeky fuck. You never really aim, you always try to snapshot, and as I said, it just works because this gun is great. Now we're thinking about rushing this E5 down, well, the little E5, the baby E5, the Patriot down there. It could be pretty bad, it could also work reasonably well. We just need to make sure we don't get tracked. We still do have a repair kit even if we do, but on the E5, the ammo rack is in the lower plate, so you kind of want to save the repair kit for that, because generally the ammo rack does go quite often in this thing. The main weakness of the E5, apart from the, you know, kind of armor full of weak spots, is the really poor backward speed. And now we're going for this play. We're gonna just YOLO him down. We do fuck up our first shot. We shoot his upper plate at 45 degrees pretty much, so that's pretty sad for me, but we should be able to just bully him out of here. And at this kind of fight, like, you don't want to fight an E5 in this kind of position that he's in, and he's even getting shot by his teammates. They're not penning him, but still, it's not really where you want to be in life when you're that Patriot. We should be able to pick up this T71. Need to be careful not exposed to the T28 camping spot, but we are able to pick up the 71 without getting any extra damage on us. But yeah, what I was saying is that the E5's weakness, or one of the main weaknesses, is the really poor backwards speed limit. 12 backwards really hurts you, especially when you're trying to be aggressive and over peaking. Also, what we just noticed is that the M53RD is way down south, so we need to be careful of that and make sure we play around that. Also, the 140 is now shooting me as well. And now, as you can see, we kind of bait the Scorpion into shooting us. The pilot does pen me with AP. I guess he got my lower plate. I'm not sure why I focused the pilot here. That was a bad play. Never should have done that. But we shoot Scorpion this time and bounce the shot off him again. Could maybe get the shot on that, but we are not there in time, so that doesn't happen. The mouse is pressing W key on the other side. Also, what the fuck was that? But the mouse is pressing the W key, and he's one of the main reasons why we were able to mount this comeback. I mean, you can't really do much to a mouse when you're those tanks in the enemy team. I mean, nothing can really do much to a mouse. It's just like W key for the win, and he's also sitting in an RD safe position, so it should be an easy cleanup for a mouse even when he's 2-on-1 like that. But we are gonna be able to pick up the SD1 and make his life a bit easier. Now though, it is time to cross the map and go kill that object 140. Alright, I'm gonna speed up this replay a bit now because there's a lot of driving to be done, and while the E5 isn't the slowest tank ever, it's still not a lot of fun watching a tank drive across the map. But anyways, this game for us so far pretty good. 6k damage, 1.7k bombs by Armour, and 800 damage assisted. While we weren't facing the meanest tanks, we did shit on the 140 pretty well, and we didn't really give the E4 a chance to do much against me as well. That's kind of what the E5 is about. It's about picking your fights, it's about isolating the enemies you know you can deal with effectively, and avoiding the tanks like, you know, the mouse or the Type 5 Heavy, where you can't really do fuck all to them unless you press 2K, and even then they're just gonna out DPM you, and their hit point amount is just way too high for you to really compete with that. So what you do in this is just pick favorable fights and make sure that that the fight you're in is good for you. Try to use your gun depression as much as possible. Try to avoid showing your lower plate as much as possible. And side scraping works, especially when it is the angle when your cupola is not sticking out first. If it's the other way around, it can be a bit awkward for you, as the cupola armor is not that great. And the last RD is here, so we are gonna be able to shoot him once and he misses his shot, so we have to kill here now, which we're gonna happily pick up, and it is pretty much the game. Alright, so here's the end plate. We end up with an ace tanker, 5,625 for you XP with the triple, top gun and high caliber. We did 6,551 damage, assisted for 876, and also picked up 6 kills with 1,250 base XP. Alright, so is the E5 worth the grind? Well, the thing about the E5 is that it's one of the most beginner-friendly lines in the game, up until tier 7 at least. Tier 8 is a bit lackluster with all the power creep going on, and the M3 is a bit meh as well, but there is solid tanks, and the research cost in this line is really low and one of the lowest in the game, so this is one of the easiest tier 10 tanks to get for sure. And the E5 is pretty good at what it does. You just need to understand that it's not the idiot-proofed E5 that it was for the last year, and you'll do fine. Just keep moving, don't let your enemies shoot you in the lower plate, and don't let them aim for the cupola, and you'll be just fine. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and I'll see you on the next one.